I'm Megan Roberts. It's another step in preparation for this year's wildfire season. The government of the Northwest Territories has updated its emergency plan. The thing is, there aren't actually a lot of changes. It's more about making everything in the plan easier to understand. The CBC's Leanie Lambrink joins us now to talk us all through it. So, Leanie, you went to a briefing about the updates to this plan. What did you learn there?
So as you alluded to, I'm going to start by talking to you about the things that haven't changed. So in the event of an emergency like a fire or a flood, the territorial government and the community's responsibilities are the same. But the language in the plan is supposed to be easier to understand, clarifying what the roles and responsibilities are for residents like you and me, all the way up to communities and the territorial government itself. The territory wanted to clarify all of this as we head into another high-risk season.
Okay, so then what did actually change then, Leanie?
So there are a couple of tangible changes. Let's say there's a wildfire threatening a small community and its residents are told to evacuate to Yellowknife. The territory used to cover the cost of congregate accommodations like setting up an evacuation center with cots at the multiplex. Now it will also pay for commercial accommodations like hotels and B&Bs. Another new thing, the territory is training people from across its departments who can help manage the workload of an emergency if needed.
That was a big issue last year, pulling in enough staff from around the GNWT to staff up our incident management team. Big lesson learned. Now we have a database of surge staff and we're doing ongoing training with them.
King says they've identified 95 people for these jobs so far.
Okay, so you said that the purpose of this update was about clarity. Is there anything specific that is more clear that we can talk about?
Yeah, so the government put out this fact sheet and it lays out everyone's responsibilities under the Emergency Management Act. For example, a designated local authority has to prepare a community emergency plan, while it's the territory's emergency management organization's responsibility to provide a community with advice. Another thing that is made abundantly clear, what the GNWT will and will not pay for in a host community. And by host community, I mean a place that's taking in evacuees. So if that community hires people or has staff members going into overtime providing support, the territory will pay for that, along with evacuation, transportation, food services, laundry, cleaning, like I mentioned before, accommodation costs. What they won't pay for are regular staff salaries, non-essential items like electronics, cultural and recreational activities, and damage to commercial facilities.
Okay, thanks for breaking it all down for us, Leanie.
No problem.
Last year, Alberta also experienced an unprecedented wildfire season that saw a number of communities forced to evacuate. Despite that danger, some Albertans refused to leave their properties. But with the 2024 wildfire season now underway, there's hope that things will be different this year. Paige Parsons explains.
This one directly in front of us was just born this morning.
It's calving season at Jens Jorgensen's farm near Wildwood, Alberta. It's also wildfire season.
Didn't matter what direction we looked, you could see smoke and fire.
About this time last year, Wildwood was under an evacuation order. As the flames drew closer, Jorgensen and his wife wanted to leave, but feared they wouldn't be allowed back to tend to their animals.
During that time, the power went out. Without power, there's no water. So our animals, if without us, would have had no water, no feed. I know we would have lost animals. So we said, no, we're not going to take that chance.
The wind was blowing and it just brought the fire over the river this way and continued down the path over here to the Ridgeview campground.
Farmers weren't the only ones defying evacuation orders. Wildfire ripped through this campground near Edson last year. The town itself was spared, but was evacuated twice for fire and a third time for flooding.
Some people did decide to stay at home for whatever reason.
In the years since, Mayor Kevin Zahara has spoken with people who refused to leave.
They just didn't feel like it was the right opportunity for them to leave at that point in time.
He says some residents didn't know about transportation and other supports available. That'll be addressed if there's another evacuation this year.
When people refuse to leave their properties during an evacuation order, it puts first responders in a difficult position.
Safety is the priority. We're trying to keep you safe.
If wildfire danger is imminent, officers have authority to remove children. There's more discretion when it comes to adults on their own property, but RCMP warned that the consequences of refusing to leave can be dire.
You don't want to comply. If you're a grown adult, you want to take care of it, good. Just make sure we have ways to contact your family and ways to identify you.
A provincial spokesperson says Albertans should follow official sources for information about evacuation orders. Jorgensen wants authorities to come up with a separate plan for farmers who need to care for their livestock. In the meantime, he's retrofitting this crop sprayer to be used for firefighting.
Nobody's going to protect our property once we're gone, and I can do everything in my power to protect it if I stay.
He's prepared to defy evacuation orders again, but hopes he won't need to. Paige Parsons, CBC News, Yellowhead County.
The Yukon Residential School Missing Children Project is starting a ground search in Whitehorse next week. It's the second part of a search that started last summer near the Chutla Residential School site in Carcross. The work will focus on two sites in the Riverdale neighborhood, the former locations of Yukon Hall and Cordette Hall.
Site, we weren't sure that it was going to get searched until somebody came forward with a story. So coming forward is so important to ensuring that the work is getting done in a timely manner.
We've heard stories, on residential schools and that history, and there's a lot there. There's a lot there, and those are important things for us as leaders to acknowledge and to put those necessary supports in place and resources to help identify if there is anybody that is missing from any one of the databases of information that we can access and do that important research.
The search is expected to be complete by May 4th. Baker Lake RCMP want the public to help find a 21-year-old man. Jason Penica was last seen in Baker Lake on Thursday, April 18th. He's about 6 feet 2 inches and weighs about 178 pounds. Penica may be driving a black and yellow reindeer skidoo, and he might be heading to Rankin Inlet. Baker Lake Search and Rescue has launched a ground search with volunteers from Rankin Inlet, Whale Cove, and Chesterfield Inlet. An Agnico Eagle Mines helicopter is also involved in the search. The city of Yellowknife announced an $8.4 million deal with the federal government today to fast-track the construction of over 150 homes in the city over the next 3 years. But the money won't go toward the actual building of homes. It's dedicated to enhancing policies that will lead to more home construction, with a focus on higher density housing, homes near transit, and even student housing.
We will work to further modernize the city's policy and regulatory approach on housing to provide greater choice and increased affordability. This includes completing core work like a housing needs assessment, updating and enhancing our development incentive bylaw, working on streamlining the development process, and much more.
The city says it hopes the funding will spur the construction of 2,500 homes in Yellowknife over the next decade. The government of Nunavut plans to implement specific protocols when dealing with child abuse and neglect in the next 3 to 6 months. That timeline was given today during the Gchen's Standing Committee on the Oversight of Government Operations and Public Accounts. The committee was looking into the 2022-23 annual report of the Representative for Children and Youth. The Nunavut Department of Family Services says social workers that interact with children will now have to follow new protocols when conducting examinations of a child's home. It also says implementing the protocols is a priority.
There's a lot of work to be done to completely operationalize the spirit and intent of the child abuse and neglect response protocol. Relevant departments recently met through in-person and virtual meetings to discuss how do we operationalize this so that there's a top-down understanding and protocol and subordinate standards of procedure that will ensure the meaningful implementation of this agreement.
MLA Janet Pitsulak-Brewster says the timeline is concerning, given that the Auditor General of Canada declared the state of family services a crisis 6 months ago. Some residents in Yellowknife say their neighborhood is deteriorating. The ground is shifting, roads are crumbling, and water mains keep on breaking. The CBC's Luke Carroll reports.
I'm standing in a neighborhood between Niven and Old Town, a neighborhood that has experienced 7 water main breaks since February. And residents say those water main breaks are making the infrastructure and roads even worse.
A lot of us are going to have to get our trailers re-leveled in the spring. We're dealing with flooded yards. We're dealing with ice buildup in places where there shouldn't be ice. We've got a number of people who've had backyards, front yards, partially or completely dug up.
Giroux and other residents say the roads are becoming nearly undrivable. Slumps have been dipping so low, some worry their vehicle will bottom out. This has been ongoing for years, but residents say it's worsened over the past few months. So has the drainage as the water pools at the bottom of the hill, affecting the properties and roadways there. In an emailed statement, a spokesperson for the city said the city regularly assesses the conditions of infrastructure in place and triages and prioritizes repairs with the resources allocated within the current budget. CBC News spoke with 6 residents about the issues. They credited the teams from the city who have responded to the water main leaks, but they say there needs to be a long-term plan for how to deal with the situation. Luke Carroll, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Dawson City just got a brand new ambulance. Today, local paramedics got training on some of the ambulance's high-tech features, and the highlight is the power stretcher. It allows paramedics to lift up to 700 pounds with the press of a button. The ambulance also comes equipped with more seating space and controls that allow for a smoother drive on rough terrain like potholes or unpaved roads. Officials say the new ambulance will mean better health care in the community.
Being able to provide a higher level of care to Dawson residents and surrounding area is very important to us. And being able to have our responders fully trained, patient care is the biggest outcome, and it's what we want. It's our goals and values of doing proper patient care, and this is just going to help create that.
The new ambulance replaces an aging one and will serve as Dawson City's primary ambulance.
Makimuksak palilaw kapta awla yina lakpo kugyang mulo amalo kokbiyo yamo kinga liwaling mulo pangolo asyang miu muna toy mo ina daily takpa makimuksak palilaw sumo mutay mabuat taling ni pilariyo lak sumo inyo amichwalu walang muta.
I will not forgive failure. God has chosen us as a new broom to sweep the Vatican clean of corruption.
What would you like to do with your life? I'd like to be an international star.
Are you a hug?
You're crying.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Well, God will take his revenge then.
Yes, he will. With our help.
What does it take to reach the top? Join me, Ian Hannah-Mansing, as I get to know some truly inspirational people who share the secrets of their success.
If you want to talk about one moment, it's a moment where I would live or die.
It changed everything on CBC News Explore.
Moments that are so on trend right now. Ticket pricing, artificial intelligence, being a Swiftie, wild fashion trends, showbiz, and cancel culture. Join me, Alameen Abdul Mahmood, for Commotion, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sipping on a bit of Henny, can I get a little Remy? Feeling heavy, chilling but I'm feeling ready. Pulled up in a big old Chevy.
Today is Earth Day, and this year's theme is all about reducing the amount of plastic in the environment. However, Canada's ban on single-use plastic bags has had an unintended consequence. A whole lot of reusable bags now pile up in people's homes and eventually landfills. Big grocers are offering solutions to deal with the issue, but as Sophia Harris reports, experts have concerns.
Seriously, it's never ending. Look at that. Over the past 2 years, Udi and Natalie Sella have amassed hundreds of new reusable Walmart bags, all from grocery delivery.
What a waste. Really, it's a waste.
So the couple was happy to learn Walmart has launched a national pilot project where customers send by mail at no cost their unwanted reusable Walmart bags. The good ones are cleaned and sent to the food bank to be reused. Damaged bags get recycled.
Find some better way to store all this.
The Sellas have already signed up.
I definitely think it's a step in the right direction. I think it's something that needed to be done a while ago. God knows we've got a ton of bags kind of piled up.
But some experts aren't keen on Walmart's project because it doesn't stop customers from acquiring more of these.
We're drowning in them, and we shouldn't be. We're only meant to have a few of them, and we're meant to use them until they fall apart, essentially, in order to avoid things like this going to landfill.
Ever since Canada banned single-use plastic shopping bags a little over a year ago, reusable ones have been piling up.
This is how I store them.
The ban is being contested in court, but still remains in effect. Walmart says it's also exploring other solutions, including customers returning bags in the store. So what about other big grocers? Loblaw and Sobeys are delivering groceries in recyclable paper bags. But environmental expert Emily Alfred says that's not a solution.
What's the problem with paper bags?
We're not really stopping the wasteful system. Paper bags are made from trees. It requires logging, it requires water. There's a lot of environmental damage that happens upstream to make those paper bags.
Alfred likes what Grocer Metro offers. Customers can get groceries delivered in a returnable plastic bin. But that doesn't help in-store shoppers.
Piles of them. And
Alfred hopes the federal government will step in and mandate retailers find workable solutions for all customers to bring an end to this. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
It's being dubbed the largest deal in Canadian history. Honda is expected to announce a multi-billion-dollar agreement this week to build electric vehicles in Ontario. The deal will be partly subsidized by federal tax credits. It'll be unveiled in Alliston, where Honda has been making gas-powered vehicles for decades. Olivia Stefanovic has the details.
The small town of Alliston, Ontario, is about to become the leader for electric vehicle production in Canada and possibly all of North America.
This week, we've landed a new deal. It'll be the largest deal in Canadian history. So stay tuned.
That tease after CBC News confirmed a Bloomberg report. Honda is set to announce a multi-billion-dollar agreement, expanding its Canadian manufacturing dramatically, assembling electric vehicles, building batteries, and processing the raw materials to power them.
We have the critical minerals, renewable energy, access to market. So we're becoming kind of the place of choice in the world for manufacturing to look at producing to serve the North American market.
This industry executive says that makes Canada well positioned to serve the lucrative U.S. market.
Canada, especially Ontario, Quebec, are very well placed where you can extract the minerals, turn them into massive batteries that weigh hundreds of pounds, put them in cars and send them down.
Though the deal is several years in the making, last week's federal budget offered a sweetener, an EV supply chain investment tax credit intended to woo the Japanese automaker.
I have every confidence we're going to see the magnetic pull of those tax credits bringing more significant investment to our country, in the days and weeks and months to come.
The deal is being hailed as a major win for Canada and Ontario, competing against hundreds of billions of dollars in U.S. subsidies and incentives. More details are expected to be announced later this week. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
A road project near Montreal aims to trim the commute time for motorists. It also means cutting through a wetland teeming with wildlife, though, including a threatened species. And there's now a race to save the western chorus frog. Rowan Kennedy has that story.
The western chorus frog is about the size of my thumb. There are hundreds of them here in the Boisé-Tremblay area, and they're not shy about making themselves heard. But all their noise won't stop construction of a road through their wetlands. Despite efforts to block the work, which threatens the frog's habitat, the city of Longueuil plans to finish building Belleville Boulevard this summer. Quebec's Wildlife Ministry and the city of Longueuil have begun an operation to move as many frogs as possible out of their natural habitat and into Montreal's biodome, away from the construction.
The tub where we have the most tadpoles is almost 2,000.
Amiko Wong gives the frogs hormones to help them reproduce. In 2 months, these tadpoles will be reintroduced to the wild.
It has been successful in the past. In 2016, there were almost 2,000 froglets that were born with this assisted reproduction. If we would take care of the habitats, the planet, etc., probably we wouldn't have to do all this.
I really like to come here because it's the chorus frog paradise.
Camille Montpetit runs a group calling for the frog's habitat to be restored.
Well, just yesterday, I noticed that the chorus frog was singing right in the middle of the road.
Longueuil still needs a permit from the Federal Environment Ministry to start construction again this spring. The city has explored putting several wildlife corridors under the road and banning development on each side of the street. Rowan Kennedy, CBC News, Longueuil.
Today is Gchen Day. It marks the signing of the Gchen Land Claim Agreement. That happened 32 years ago, all the way back in 1992. Today, Inuvik celebrated with a cookout full of traditional foods and music, and we were there to check it out.
Significant of Gchen Day is the signing of our Gchen Comprehensive Land Claim Agreement, and just how we're growing to be one nation. I'm proud to be Gchen just because of our people, how we survive off the land, who we are, and just what we believe in.
Today we had ptarmigan soup, we had caribou stew, and we had just boiled caribou meat for the elders.
Be proud of who I am, and also to, you see the non-Gchen, we're proud to show them who we are, and we respect them and they respect us, and we respect each other, and just to be proud of who I am and how I was brought up by my parents.
Eating traditional foods is like, oh my God, yum, yum, yum. When I was small, my mom would get fish or meat from Old Crow, and she would wait till I came home after school and say, how you want me to cook it? And I go, Mom, they sent it to you. You cook it any way you want. I'll eat it.
The Gchen nation is a strong nation right now. And, not only the Gchen nation, the Inuvialuit and all other groups that lived and grew up here, we have to be proud of who we are and where we come from.
Also today, Ottawa announced plans for a new national park in the Yukon. The park would include the Peel River Corridor, Turner Lake Wetlands, and Caribou River. Those areas are all listed as a priority for conservation under the Peel Watershed Land Use Plan. At roughly 3,000 square kilometers, the park would be about half the size of PEI. It would be co-managed by the Gchen Tribal Council and the First Nation of Nacho-Nyack Dun. The park, which has yet to be named, would be the Yukon's 4th national park. Dawson City hosted its first ever potato race over the weekend. Over a dozen people gathered to take part on Sunday.
On your mark, get set, go!
Looks looks like a good throw. The rules for this were simple. The potato must cross the finish line first to be the winner. A variety of techniques were used by the racers, but in the end, only one could be crowned the winner. That was Connor Driscoll from the United Kingdom. He offered this secret to choosing the perfect racing potato.
Aerodynamics is key. So you want a nice round shape, no harsh edges, but you also want something with a little bit of give in it, something soft. You don't want your potato too hard because it's going to explode on impact. So you want something that's just going to have a little bit of give, you know, so you can use it again in the final.
For winning, Driscoll got a certificate, a ribbon, a tiny trophy, and most importantly, bragging rights to bring home with him. Racers for the 2024 Nunavut Quest crossed the finish line this afternoon in Pond Inlet. Kilukti Ivalu was first to arrive. David Uyukuluk from Arctic Bay arrived just seconds later, with Tom Nakitakvik not far behind. But it's still not clear who actually won. Times over the last 6 days between all the checkpoints still need to be calculated. The community will be hosting a feast this evening. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, you can always go to our website, cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
What happens when we transform the country into one massive obstacle course? 20 total strangers are about to find out.
Okay, game on!
Relationships will be forged and crushed.
I want to rip their heads off.
In an all-out battle for glory.
Oh my God! I'm glad that there's cameras around. Yeah, me too. Do it in, replay.
Only one thing's for sure. They are not ready for what's coming.
Let's go, baby!
I'm such a fan of this show.
Listen to the podcast, Q with Tom Power.
The story itself is so unbelievable.
The industry wasn't set up for me to thrive in.
The presence I feel now is not something that I believed to be possible in the past.
So many people thought I couldn't do it. They doubted me.
Felt like I ripped my whole heart out.
I didn't realize how formative 25 to 30 would be.
I have to kind of repress my own self-doubt.
You're one of my favorite interviewers. I was pumped.
Get out of here.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sipping on a bit of Henny. Can I get a little Remy? Feeling heavy. Chilling, but I'm feeling ready. Pulled up in a big old Chevy. Dance floor stops and Miguel them drops. Queen with the locks and the crown on top. Feet in a box, never sound on pops. If it ain't the Henny, give me crown on rocks.
What does it take to reach the top? Meet some truly inspirational people as they share the challenges and secrets of their success. It changed everything on CBC News Explore.
What do we know
About that with Andrew Chang.
I think we can explain.
Watch free on CBC Gem.